Congratulations on the purchase of your Claydog Raku Kiln. For over 10 years, L&R Specialties Incorporated has produced and offered what we feel is the most productive and convenient Raku kiln on the market. Our exclusive all-in-one base and burner and our firing chamber are both manufactured in Nixa, Missouri with expanded steel. The Claydog Raku Kiln comes packaged in two boxes. The larger box is simply the firing chamber, and the smaller box is the base burner combination with the shelf, post, propane hose and regulator, and instruction booklets and this DVD. The Claydog Raku Kiln comes with everything you need to start firing Raku except the liquid propane bottle. The smaller box should contain the DVD you're watching, the instruction booklet, the propane hose and regulator package, and the actual burner base combination. The Claydog has been thoroughly tested. Every year, these kilns are put to the test on the first Sunday in November during L&R Specialties Raku Day, where 9 kilns fire from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., firing well over 1,500 pieces of all techniques and sizes. The larger of the two boxes simply contains the firing chamber or shell. It comes completely assembled and no further assembly is necessary. The lightweight vacuum shell makes the Claydog Raku Kiln extremely portable. On examining the burner base combination, you'll notice that stored in the center are the kiln shelf posts wrapped in bubble packing for protection. Also underneath the unit, you'll find the 13-inch kiln shelf taped securely to the bottom of the unit. Using a carpet knife or a razor blade, cut the tape away from the 4 supporting legs. This may take you a while due to the fact that it's very securely wrapped for shipping purposes. After the kiln shelf has been removed from the legs, remove the excess tape from around them. Now simply place the burner base combination back in its upright position. If during this procedure you've dislodged the vacuum pressed flooring, simply place it back over the 4 posts. The small package contains the 4 high-temperature ceramic shelf posts, simply using the carpet knife to open up the bubble packing and remove the 4 posts. Each of the 4 posts has a hole through the center that will be going down around the actual steel pins in the top of the burner base combination. The larger package contains the 13-inch high-quality ceramic kiln shelf. The kiln shelf comes wrapped in a layer of bubble packing and a cardboard liner to protect it from breakage during shipping. If breakage of these parts occurs, always replace the shelf or the ceramic post with the original sizes. Other sizes will affect the performance of the kiln. Included with the Claydog Raku Kiln is a 10-foot liquid propane hose and high-pressure regulator. This regulator and hose are designed to be used with a 20-pound or 40-pound liquid propane tank. For use with a natural gas or a larger propane tank, contact your local gas supply or simply call L&R Specialties at their number on the end of this DVD. In this example, we're using a standard barbecue grill style 20-pound propane tank. Place the regulator's fittings securely in the tank's fitting and use your fingers to hand tighten and snug up the brass fitting. And remember, American propane fittings tighten to the counterclockwise direction. After the brass fitting is tightened by hand, use the spring-loaded black wrench to firmly tighten the fitting completely. It's also important to remember that the vent on the high-pressure regulator should be pointed in the downward position. Next, take the other end of the propane hose and connect its fitting to the fitting at the bottom of the burner and base combination. Hand tighten, and then use an open-end wrench or a crescent wrench to snug the fitting together by holding on to the valve and tightening slightly. This fitting actually tightens clockwise like a normal fitting. Next, take your 4 ceramic shelf posts and place them over the 4 steel posts on the top of the burner and base combination. Take the 13-inch shelf and place it squarely on top of the 4 kiln posts. You can look at the top to make sure that it's centered. Making sure the burner's gas valve is closed, go ahead and open up the propane bottle's gas valve completely. Next, place an extended lighter at the opening between the top of the burner and the bottom of the base's floor. Light the lighter and give the valve about a 1/8 turn until you hear the gas escaping and the burner ignites. If the flame seems too powerful, go ahead and pull the valve down until you get a nice constant yellow flame. If it didn't light the first time, simply turn the valve off, allow the gas to escape and clear, and then simply repeat the procedure. This slow, even yellow flame is what we call the candling flame, or the candling mode. It's usually used to preheat whatever is going to be inside the kiln. Since we're going to dry fire the kiln without anything in it, go ahead and place the shell on the top of the burner base combination. You can stare down through the hole to make sure that you're aligning the kiln shell properly. After a few minutes of candling mode, you can go ahead and turn the gas valve up just enough to where you see a nice even blue flame and a kind of a rushing roar. We're going to let the kiln run in this mode for about 10 or 15 minutes to burn out any organics. The next time you handle the kiln, it'll actually be quite hot, so now's a good time to put on your pair of heavy leather gloves or Raku gloves. L&R Specialties sells a pair of gloves specifically for the Claydog Raku Kiln. After about 10 or 15 minutes, you may notice a sizable amount of smoke beginning to emit from the sides of the shell and around the sides of the base and the burner. This is the gum binders used in the forming of the vacuum fiber shell burning out of the kiln, and nothing to be alarmed about. Some people prefer that this first firing of the Claydog Raku Kiln be an empty firing specifically for this purpose. It would not, however, be detrimental to fire pottery on your first firing. After you have fired your Claydog Raku Kiln for 15 to 20 minutes and smoke no longer emits, go ahead and turn the burner off at the base and close the valve on your propane bottle. Allow the unit to cool and break it down if you wish. Here we have a 5-pound box of L&R Specialties turquoise glaze in a powdered form for Raku. During the mixing of a powdered glaze like this, it's always a good idea to wear a convenience dust mask. We're only going to be using about half of this glaze mix, so simply pour the glaze from the bag into about a 1-gallon container. At first, only mix in enough water to make a thick paste out of the glaze. Stir thoroughly until you've converted all of the dry lumps into a paste. You can add more water in a moment to bring the consistency to that of a heavy cream, and then you can test that by simply sticking your finger into the glaze to see if it coats your fingernail. You can also run that glaze through several of these different types of sieves to smooth out the glaze, but it's not absolutely necessary due to the fact that Raku glazes melt a little bit quicker than others. L&R Specialties sells several different types of premixed glazes, both powdered and liquid. Also available are the chemical components for formulating your own glazes. Here we're actually using a banding wheel to apply this glaze to this pot, due to the fact that the turquoise glaze doesn't take too well to brushing. There are many different ways of applying a glaze to a pot: pouring, brushing, dipping. The choice is really up to you. While it is possible to bisque fire greenware pottery over a long period of time in the Claydog Raku Kiln, we're going to be using pre-bisque fired pottery from an electric kiln. Glaze application is as individualistic as the person who made the piece of pottery or sculpture. There really is no right or wrong way to apply a glaze. Here we're going to use a homemade glaze that was mixed using chemicals that are available from L&R Specialties. You can tell that the brushability of this glaze is considerably better utilizing the banding wheel. There are literally thousands of resources for glaze recipes that can be followed in order to mix your own glazes. Many raku glazes tend to melt evenly, so brush marks don't show as readily as they would on something like stoneware glazes or high-fire glazes. Being creative with your glazes is one of the most enjoyable aspects of ceramics. Here we're simply pouring the glaze over a bisque-fired pot in order to obtain a specific pattern. The raku process will embed carbon into the white area so that everything you see that is white will actually be black. Here we have everything laid out in the same manner as the previous firing, with the addition of 3 reduction chambers in the form of 3 small trash cans with lids. The burning media and pottery actually go in these cans. We're basically going to treat this like the first firing, so simply stretch out your propane hose and take the small fitting and attach it to the fitting at the bottom of the burner base combination. Take an opened end wrench or crescent wrench and tighten the fitting to the fitting at the bottom of the base by holding the valve. Attach the regulator to your liquid propane bottle and tighten the fitting using the black wrench to the counterclockwise position, making sure that the vent at the bottom of the regulator is pointed in the downward position. Next, if you haven't done it already, place the 4 ceramic shelf posts on their metal pins. Now take your 13-inch shelf and simply place it on the posts. Here you see our 3 reduction chambers set up for a one-man operation. The bricks are actually going to be used to prevent the lids of the reduction cans from popping off due to heat expansion. Here we're using shredded newspaper as the reduction media. Sawdust, straw, leaves, and a multitude of other burnable materials can be utilized to reduce your raku pottery. Using raku tongs, the red-hot pottery will be placed directly on this media and the cans covered with the lids. Now we're going to take our glazed ceramic objects and place them in the center of the kiln shelf, making sure not to have the pieces touch each other because the glaze will melt and fuse the pieces together. After you've made sure that the valve on your base is closed, open your liquid propane bottle's valve all the way. Taking your extended lighter, place the lighter at the top of the burner port, light the lighter, and turn your gas valve about 1/8 until the candling flame appears. Adjust the candling flame if you need to until it's nice and even and continuous. Now take the firing chamber or shell and place it over the burner base combination, looking through the hole to make sure that the pieces don't touch the sides of the chamber. After about 5 minutes of sitting in the candle flame, it's alright to turn your temperature up, so give your gas valve a little bit more of a turn until you get the nice blue high temperature flame. Don't turn the gas valve too much because the Claydog Raku Kiln can heat up very rapidly. After about 10 or 15 minutes, some of the glazes you've used will actually appear to be foamy on the surface of the pottery. This is a good indicator that the glazes are actually beginning to mature, and it's completely natural. Some glazes will not perform this way, so it's always good to try to find out which ones do and which ones don't. Here's our homemade example, and as you can see, this particular type of glaze doesn't like to foam up as much as the other ones. If you'd like to be more exact about your temperatures, you can always rig the Claydog Raku Kiln with a pyrometer for exact measurements. After about 15 or 20 minutes in high fire, you'll notice that the foaming glazes have laid back down onto the piece, and the piece will actually look shiny like it's been dipped in water or wax. This is an indication that the glazes have actually matured, and they're almost ready to take out of the kiln. Now would be a good time to know exactly where your raku tongs are, to have them easily accessible. Wearing your raku gloves, grasp the firing chamber and remove it over to one side. Grab your raku tongs and grab one of the pieces of red-hot pottery with the tongs. Due to the space restriction, we actually had to stretch the propane hose across our footpath. This is not suggested. Place the red-hot pot on top of the reduction media and then place on the lid and the brick. Return to the kiln, grab the next piece. On this particular piece we have a white crackle, and so we're going to blow on the outside of the piece until we actually hear the glaze start to fracture. It'll sound like little breaking glass. Once the piece has fractured enough, you can then take the piece and place it in the reduction media. This will give a nice even crackle across the surface of the pot. If the pot doesn't flare up, you can take some of the reduction media and toss it on top of it. Place on the lid and place the brick in place. Now in order for the top of this particular piece to be nice and black, we're going to place it directly in the reduction media. Maybe grab some of the reduction media and place it on top of the piece. Grab the lid and put it in place, and then set the brick on top. The faster you get a piece in the reduction media, the more carbon it should absorb and the blacker it should be. We're going to allow these pieces to sit in the reduction media for about 15 minutes. After about 15 minutes, you can take the brick off and open up the can to see the result. Smaller pieces should have cooled to the point to where you can actually handle them with the leather gloves. Here we have an interesting copper effect that occurred due to the reduction of our actual turquoise glaze. I'm going to freeze that copper effect by simply dunking the piece in water. Due to the temperature of this particular piece, dunking it in water could fracture or bust the piece. That's part of the risk of doing raku. You can see where the copper in this particular glaze has developed some nice lusters and metallic sheen over the surface of this piece of pottery. You can actually see the cameraman. Make sure to not have your eyes too close to the chamber when you open it because smoke will billow out. We're going to examine this piece next. You can see where the clay has been left white at the top of this particular pot. It is turned jet black. We'll get back to that one later. We'll take out the last piece and examine it. This is our homemade yellow glaze. And it's a nice light yellow with a nice jet black top. Later, these pieces can be taken and have some steel wool applied to them with some water to clean up the carbon. Make sure and turn your propane tank off, and then bleed the valve on your burner base combination to allow the propane to escape the hose before you break it down. We hope you've enjoyed this preliminary raku experience, and of course if you have any questions, please feel free to contact L&R Specialties in Nixon, Missouri.